Which one of you is the better dancer?
He is.
No, he is.
He is.
Seriously, are any of the three of you like really good dancers?
Spiro.
I would say Spiro's the.
Spiro?
Oh,
He
yeah.
said he was.
He would.
He would.
He would.
Yep, he would.
No, he just has the touch, the step.
Okay, I was just curious.
I was very small when I started. Probably.
4. I think it was 76, wasn't it?
76 was.
St. Spring for sure. I think so. Do
We
you guys remember?
didn't dance the first year though. The
No.
first couple of years. Probably. 70,
I don't think it was 76.
You don't think so?
Oh, maybe.
Take money on it?
Red.
Let's see. That'd be.
Well, it
I
does.
was probably at least 8 years old when I probably started dancing.
Okay.
When you started dancing, yeah.
Probably would be my guess. And it was a long time ago.
And you, Thanasi? Same, about the same.
Yeah, well, my first folk dance festival was, I believe, in 1976.
We all were at the first.
Yeah.
Oh, you all were, okay.
We were all present
yeah.
for the
We
We
first.
were present, we were
Yeah.
there. My first memory was being carried on a wood bleacher seat as they were building the bleachers from one end to the other by my dad and Harry Krypton.
Yep.
And they gave me a skill saw to hold. It wasn't plugged in, mind you, but it was. Why would you give a 6-year-old a skill saw? Why would you do that? But that's what they did. They gave me a skill. I was holding it. They carried me across. They were building bleachers. It's true.
Why?
They were building bleachers. I actually don't know why they had skill saw, but I was holding tools. I was
What's
holding
a skill
dangerous power tools.
that you sort of push forward to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't plugged in, but they,
Still.
I was enjoying it. I was getting it right. They were building bleachers, and these guys were moving stuff back and forth and bolting them in, and my job was to sit in the bleacher and they'd carry me across the thing. Did they carry you, or was I the only one?
I think you were the only one.
You're being groomed.
That's one thing for me.
Being
That's
groomed.
one thing for me. That's exactly. They say, what's the difference between you and your brother? That's one thing. Put that
That's
in my
one
pocket.
thing.
That's one right there. I got to ride in the bleachers.
You get to ride in the bleachers. Yeah.
So did you enjoy it from the start, or was it more of just a given that you were going to go there? And...
You've met my father, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a given. It was a given. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
That's what the family was going to do. That's what we did.
It was more of an enjoyable moment in time. And being that young, what else? You just go, you see a bunch of
Yeah.
interesting people, right? And you see all
Yeah.
ages, people in costumes. You're like, oh, that's interesting, that's fun, that's cool. And
Your friends
watch,
were doing
yeah. Oh, there are a lot. I would say Pontos or Pontic dances are is a region. Pontic dance is a favorite of mine.
But that's because he's a hairy mountain man, so he relates to that.
Oh,
Yes,
Very
yeah.
nice. He likes guns and knives. He's a quirky kind of guy.
How would you characterize these dances?
There are particular like warrior dances.
Okay.
So warrior dances. So battle dances, dances of pride and honor, and
Yeah, I think it,
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Dad's mother is
Dad,
from. If you were to ask her, she would tell you Constantinople, because that's what it was when it was part of
Okay.
Greece.
true.
And we don't recognize Istanbul or Turkish rule. It's just one of the things that happens. And dad was from Tripoli.
Yes,
Yeah. And my mother's mother was from Kalamata,
that's correct.
which she was the most refined of the family. The rest of the people were villagers, I think, right? Except for the people from Constantinople, those people were also there. And then my mother's father was from a town called Prasino, which is actually in the hills above Tripoli.
Yes, that is also very good.
And locally, we are from the hills of Mesa, Mount Helix to be specific.
There are dances. I think the region is Peloponnesos, and so dances would be like a Tsamiko, Kalamatino. There's many dances.
But you should ask somebody who actually knows about this stuff. We just danced them, and we wore the costumes.
just
and we were
learned the
told to.
steps,
We just
put
learned
the
the steps.
costumes.
That's all we
Steps,
did. We don't
costumes,
actually know the history of it. There's a lot of people that do know that. We're not one of those people. We don't do that stuff.
It's been a long time.
Also, but I can tell you the biggest difference is the dances from where our parents are from. Those are nice, happy dances because those people were carefree. Okay, they weren't from the mountains. We didn't do bloodshed up there, stuff like that.
Right.
Little stuff. So just some happy on your toe dances. That's okay.
But the Pontic dances are more fun.
They're all fun. It's just different styles, from the different villages. So like the Pontic dances they have dances that are very, they're more warrior, very fast paced, a lot of determined, honor, pride, that sort of thing.
The island ranges are going to be a lot livelier and lighter and
Right.
usually happier, Yeah.
It's different now being part of the program, going through the program. Once you're involved and you're dancing, whether you're on the administration side of it, or you're a dancer, or you're a director, you become familiar with the areas that you're practicing or dancing or learning, and so you can become familiar with the costume, the type of costume, the dances, the dance names. Whereas, as Thanasi pointed out, there's many people that kind of live, breathe this type of life, folk dance, Greek folk dance specifically. And so there's many people that can say, Pontic dances, there are these number of dances, or this dance is specifically a warrior dance, or this dance is danced this style because of, and then they go into a little story of what it means and so forth. So at one point I could probably rattle off what that meant. Now I've spent a few years and not constantly going over this stuff or dancing and talking about it. You get a little rusty. So
Well, sure. And it was more, your takeaway was more the cultural.
More the cultural aspect, more the fellowship, the friends, the family getting together, and experiencing all that it has in one place. Just kind of the friendship, meeting new friends, old friends.
There were, the neat thing about this program, I think it means different things to different people at different times. So,
Yes.
as a young child, you're sort of, I think for me, I was in awe of watching Dad and Mom do their thing, and they I don't know that we knew what they were necessarily doing at 6 and 8 years old, but clearly they were. You'd sit and observe, and you'd watch them do things, and that was kind of interesting, and you kind of knew that that you were part of something they were supposed to be doing, right? And then you started dancing, and you were getting a dose of culture one way or the other. You were learning about costumes, you were learning about regions, you were learning about dances, you were singing the songs, you were practicing and practicing and practicing, and it was for a while in our parish anyway. We got up to, I don't know, 8-10 teams at a given time, and practicing, and so the parish did that, and it was just like kids who play softball or basketball or whatever it is. That was just what you did, and hell, we didn't know any different. That's what we did. Okay, it's Wednesdays and Friday nights. Gotta go to church and go to dance practice, and because everybody was doing it, you had tons of friends in that process, and then as we got older, at least for us, you go away to college or you leave. And Nick was in Arizona, I was in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, you had a connection because people that you'd been meeting up with once a year anyway for the folk dances. So you knew them, you knew of them, you knew them, whatever the case was. I mean, it was hell. When I moved to LA, it was like being at home. Was all the people I knew from the folk dance festival. There's a ton of them there, and what's interesting is the way everybody was moving around. I must have met one of the godparents of my children. She was from Seattle, he was from Los Angeles. I knew her from the folk dance festival actually before I met him. It's just it was a big issue. And it was another opportunity to see my cousins also in the early years. My cousins all danced in their parishes, and then of course I think then you kind of sort of migrate into the administrative side, which was bound to happen, at least in our family, because that's what was going on. So that's what we did for 6 months of the year, and I think that's where my sort of strongest, for me personally, my strongest takeaway comes in was that transition, because the year that I got involved in that was sort of a milestone for it. But then you got into administration, and it was seeing it totally differently. And
Do you mean 91 when? Or you
Yeah.
switched over to the.
That was the year
Yeah.
that was the year I ran it.
Is more specifically he's talking about is the 91 was the first year that they moved to a management team versus before then it was a parish. Parish.
And there
based,
was a number of things about that I think that were relevant, but it was really that was the first point in time when I really understood the significance of the program from its origins, because its origins were, yes, fellowship of course, but it was leadership development and developing young kids and whatnot, and that is what they did internally at St. Spirit and with the group that was there and started it. Then they sort of migrated away with it, and then they sort of came back to that, and that's when we got kind of involved about that same time period. And so that was so you had a whole different meaning. At that point in time, you weren't necessarily going to, you were seeing your friends, of course, but now you were developing friends that were on the management team with you that were of similar age, and you guys were working on a common project together, and things you were learning was contracting and budgeting and finance and event management and these types of things. And okay, so this program has been filled with so many mentors in so many different issues. And whatever you relate to, there was something for you in this program. I think that's one of the special things
cool.
about it, because if your thing was dancing, there were people that were going to teach you dance. If it was music and playing instrument, there were people who wanted to teach you that. If it was singing, there were people who taught you. If it was making costumes, there were people who wanted to teach you. And it would, and the camaraderie. I mean, you would have somebody. I mean, Dina Stamos and Modesto was a costume judge. She worked with anybody who wanted to learn how to make costumes or get research on it. Charlie Kitiakou, God, he would research and he had a library, tapes, videos, pictures. You want to know anything about costume? These people all shared it. The contracting side, the administration side was very interesting because Dad, that was important to Dad, is leadership development. And so when it started in San Diego, it was they had kids that were sort of beyond the teenage years that were sort of kind of in between, being sort of parents and captains of industry and who were sort of coming up, and it was, hey, we should try and figure out how to do something that you guys kind of learn to do that. And Peter's style was, okay, so what do we want to do? Well, we need trophies and awards. Okay, well, you go research that. And you literally, a lot of it was just, you would spin your wheels until you had worked it. And I remember for years, 3 bids, get 3 bids, get 3 bids, go get 3 bids.
Always 3 bids.
Yeah, always 3 bids. I kept saying, what if we get 4? Well, that's fine, but get 3 bids. So,
Always 3.
So a lot of it was self-discovery. It was guided self-discovery, but it was self-discovery. And then we got into 91, and that was, I gotta tell you, my dad was either brilliant or reckless or both. I'm not sure which one it was, because he put a 19-year-old in charge of a $400,000 budget, and honestly, he did not get in the way of that. It was, this is your job, and you need to take care of that, and that was the way it worked. And we in turn gave that same responsibility to, we dispersed that out to the people that were there. And the youngest kid that had was probably Louis. He was probably 13 or 12 or 13, and he had a $60,000 budget.
No.
Yeah. You're wrecking the tape. Yeah, he did. He was, and actually, probably his greatest accomplishments are what never happened, which was very interesting because he'd been given a budget of $60,000 and he had to do all the entertainment for the weekend. And we had all kinds of debates. And I remember, you'd start off and you'd say to the kids, because half of it was breaking paradigms. You'd say to these kids, okay, what do you guys want to do for entertainment? Well, we should have a dance. Okay, what kind of dance? We should have a Western dance. Okay, that's great for one. What else do you want to do? Well, we should have a dance. What kind of a dance? Well, we should do a 50s dance. Like, okay, come on, we got 5,000 people are going to show up here. We got to do something. Okay,
Think big.
And we got to think a little bigger than that. And they,
Think outside the box.
a little bit outside the box. And it took probably a month, 2 months to break that down. And the ultimate lineup of entertainment, as I remember it, was Up With People played opening ceremonies, which was a big production, and they did that.
They were huge.
They were huge. It was on a stage in a ballroom, and they were just, it was an amazing issue. They had the USC marching band showed up at the opening ceremonies, and that's how it started off. They had the Comedy Club of LA came out and did 3 acts on Thursday or Friday night. There was a complete street carnival inside the hotel, games and whatnot. Basically what they did is they hired the guys from the piers out in LA that do those games. No, it was great because we had a budget for prizes, and we told them, look, at the end of the night, we want every one of these prizes distributed. We want it done equally throughout the night, and because those games are rigged. Those guys were great, from little kids to big kids. And I tell you, as soon as the time ran on that 4 hours, the last prize was being handed out. It was these guys were, they're great. I mean, they all did prison time, I'm sure, but they're professionals. They were great. They were just fabulous. And we had what else did we do? We had there were some dances, some Greek dances and whatnot. But probably the coolest thing that Louis managed to do is we decided we'd do a beach theme dance. And on I think it was the Figueroa side of the hotel, there was a ballroom. And we literally laid down thick plastic, covered the entire floor, and we brought a skip loader in, and we covered the entire floor with sand. And let me tell you, the hotel just bitched and moaned about that because, let me rephrase that. The hotel cringed about that. And I only tell you, they had their engineers out there. They were concerned because we had, literally a semi pulled up, and they were loading that ballroom up with sand, and they spread it out all over the place. And and that was going to have to get cleaned up eventually. But it was a really cool experience. It was set up with volleyball nets and beach chairs and the Bonaventure.
The Bonaventure.
Yeah.
Downtown LA.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Downtown LA. So, and then he had a magician that showed up, and a phenomenal magician that did an act that was just amazing. But when you look at all that, and the entertainment was fabulous, and I'm probably missing things. Here's a 13-year-old that was responsible for that. Getting the deposit checks out, getting the contracts from, getting the bids from, finding the acts. But interestingly enough, that same 13-year-old, when we finally got him to think big, he actually got a commitment from the Beach Boys to play for free a concert as the evening events, and they were willing to do it. They actually said yes. Their only issue was that we had to get a permit, and we had to rent the equipment. No issues, and we had a problem with the permit. That was the only thing we couldn't get. But had we gotten that, they would have played. And it was kind of funny because when we were talking about thinking big, to give you an example, the issue when you say, well, what was the mentorship? I remember saying to him, what do you want to do? And we sort of thinking, think big, think big. And he finally goes, well, let's get the Beach Boys to do it. And I don't think he was serious. And we said, well, great. You should go. Let's go find him. He says, well, I don't know how to get a hold of the Beach Boys. And I remember the Beach Boys had played. That's right. I remember the Beach Boys had played at the USC Cal game. I think it was. I think that was the one they would do every other year. And probably wrong about that. I'm going to get chastised by all the USC fans. But anyway, so I said to him, well, why don't you call the USC football office and figure out how to get a hold of the Beach Boys? And it took him a couple of days, but he called them and got through everything and finally got their number. And that's literally how those things happen.
It's a big feat.
Hmm?
It's a wonderful feeling to say, hey, I got the Beach Boys.
Oh,
That's right.
I can't imagine.
And the magician he originally had, believe it or not, was David Copperfield, who had agreed to do the concert, to do the performance. And David, we got through, I think he was playing MGM Grand. And basically what had happened was we found that he was playing. And our whole philosophy that year was, look, the worst thing that can happen is you're going to be told no. So might as well ask. And might as well start at the top. And so he did. We ended up getting a hold of David Copperfield's agent. They said he would do it. David did not perform. And it was interesting. He was under contract. He called us up and said, I have a problem. Vegas is shifting my performance schedule, and it's going to now overlap with that. And I would like to get out of the contract. He said, but I will send you somebody that you will not be disappointed with. You're going to love this guy. And the guy's name was David Seabuck.
David Seabuck.
And we were like, oh, it's not even David Copperfield, but okay. David Seabuck did a phenomenal job.
Hold his own.
Oh, it was great. I'm sure David Copperfield would have been better, but David Seabuck was fabulous. There was nobody who was at all disappointed with that show. But that was, when you talk about mentorship, it could be as simple as there was somebody who has been there, done that, and was happy to show you, or there was somebody who said, I don't have a damn clue, but I'll tell you what, why don't you go do it? And at least certainly in the 91 committee and for several years thereafter, a lot of it came from those kids just thinking and doing and trying.
And the fact that they were trusted.
Just doing it.
Yeah.
They just,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you didn't just let them, I mean, they come back and say, here's a contract, and you'd say, okay, and then you'd say to the child, okay, well, let's look at the contract. Do you understand it? Well, I don't understand what this means. We'll go back and ask the person, what's it there for? What's it mean? Okay, well, I don't understand it. There were some lawyers who, were members of communities, and you'd say, hey, can we ask you a couple of questions? And, they were kind. There were accountants that did it. On the 91 committee, probably one of the nicest ladies that you'll ever meet, Amy Stamison. She's married now. Her last name is Kotsiomitis.
yes.
I'm positive that's it. She was working for Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream as a clerk in the accounting department. And I don't know, I don't mean to suggest that it wasn't some high-level positions. Today she's in a very high-level position with them. But she was kind enough to help out with the accounting and the bookkeeping. She brought her knowledge of spreadsheets and budgeting and whatnot because she was in the budgeting department for Dreyer's. And it's interesting as you look at the history of that, and she was a big part of the department at Dreyer's and built it, and Nestle ultimately bought Dreyer's and thought enough of their accounting department to basically replace Nestle's accounting department with Dreyer's.
Wow.
And she's still there today, and she has two 16-year-olds who were or a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old who were dancing this past year at the Folk Dance Festival, and she's there as a parent, and she's a parent volunteer at the church in Oakland, and she, so I mean, there's a lot of longevity, and that's when you say, where's the mentorship come from? Well, today it's from people who've been through it. Back then it was from people who had done other things in their lives, and again, it means different things. Amy danced. Amy was on the committee. Amy, grew up and became captain of industry, if you will, and had kids and put her kids into the program, and her kids have grown up in it. So, that's kind of one of the neat things about the program.
It's sort of self-perpetuating that way.
And I think it does it because whatever your interest is, if it's religion, if it's dance, if it's administration, if it's leadership, if it's marketing, you can
something for everyone.
Yeah, you can find it. I don't think anybody was trying to create Greece here. Okay, so I don't think so. There's a few things. First of all, the Greek culture and Orthodoxy are intertwined. It's like being from Israel and being Jewish. It's part of the culture. So you can't separate them. The church is at least as important or should be, or at least as important for Greek Americans as the culture. The program was born out of a church youth program. And there, and certainly Dad, and even to this day, the issue was, hey, look, we need to be respectful of that and maintain that. And corny as it may sound, I mean, I think that there is God's hand is in this a little bit. This thing has been successful. It's had its people that have tried to tear it down, and it keeps going, and it's had people that have championed it, and it's had its rough spots, it's had its successes certainly, and it has survived. And I don't think that's an accident. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
And the administration side, had the opportunity to do what pretty much everybody that went through the program has done, from whether you're, doing contracts, working with vendors, working on the computers, big portion of the event was the the judging. So you had the judging aspect of it. So you had the judges would judge the groups, and then they'd write down their score. And at the time, early on, I think it was just paper numbers, and then eventually it got hand calculated. Then a good friend of the family, father's or my mom's mom, had said I guess he'd visited one time, or.
Yeah, Mark Morenz. He visited the Folk Dance Festival.
He
saw the craziness of the hand tabulation.
Right,
of
and
all
said,
that
"I can
stuff.
create a
I was gonna say,
program."
that must have just been tedious.
Right.
Yes, but it was before cell phones, so you have to understand.
So he's pretty much his Mark Morenz is in the computer industry. He is a programmer by nature, very brilliant man, and said, I could put together a little program for you. So the judges can enter the scores, or they can write down on the paper, and then we can enter it and calculate it and run this algorithm and spit out the results. And so Mom was part of the calculating, judging aspect, of the program with Mark, and so I through the years became good friends with Mark, and my area of expertise is computers, and so I naturally got
suckered
into that.
Did you like computers before?
Yes, I like computers before. Tinkering around with computers, electronics, or just taking things apart, putting them back together.
Between Nick and Mark, they created the first judging software package and ran it. They did the first registration program that the program ever had, and they wrote the first table seating program.
Oh, yes.
So that was very interesting. We were able to, the final banquet was, usually about 2,500 people, as I recall, 3,000 people back then. And they all had filet mignon with, Caesar salad.
How many people?
2,500.
2,500
It was the
to
operation.
3,000.
You should have seen the dinners. It was amazing. And we did that in tents a couple times, which, if you want to see something impressive. But Nick, they figured out a program to basically seat people by parish and dance group and whatnot. And the computer would just go through and calculate, and you go out because it would take days to do that thing. These guys cranked out a program, and thank you very much. That was that.
I did what I enjoyed. Yes, I also did other throughout the years, and being on various management teams, if you will. I did everything from the computer, the registration, worked on the registration group for a while. I did security, helped with events, and there was hospitality, there was workshops. I pretty much have worked on every portion or part of a management team, along with Thanasi and Spiro and so forth.
Those old newsletters, your titles just changed.
Yeah, it is changed.
Security.
Yes.
That's it. And by the way, the title didn't matter. Whatever
Just
you get done is what got done.
Pretty much, yes. So
How am I doing this? Because you're on the committee. Okay.
Yes, it was a pretty much full-time job. Let's see. They're just saying that if you love something so much that it's not work, it's just, you enjoy what you do. So the program itself, the FDF in a whole, was something that I enjoyed. I loved very much, from dancing to the administration side to just, being a spectator in the crowd. It's something that I enjoyed very much because family was in it. I met, new friends, created new friends, met old friends. And it's just one big happy family, and so it was something I enjoyed and I love to do. So I made the time. So with school, work, and
it was just part of growing up in our family.
it was a part of the family too.
Not taking anything away from what Nick said. We did love it, but you understand, it was. This is what happened every February.
Yes.
From the time he was 4, I was 6, Spiro was 2. This is what happened every February. I remember Spiro used to think it was his birthday party because it usually fell on his birthday or thereabouts.
First couple of years,
we didn't have anything. So his birthday party, and it was kind of funny because one of the original judges was a couple by the name of Don and Ellie Hyatt. Don has since passed away, and hopefully you're going to interview Ellie, but not Greek. very much into the folk dancing
Folk
scene,
dancing.
not just Greek, but across the board.
Yep.
And boy, they got the bug. They loved it. They recruited the first judges, trained the first judges. They were some of the first judges.
Yep.
And I mean, they put in as much time as anybody else did. And Don's birthday and Spiro's birthday was exactly the same. And for years, we would have a birthday cake, and in front of the entire, population, opening ceremonies, whatever it was, we'd have a happy birthday song. Literally, Spiro thought we would. Tell you about at 9. He just thought we were going for his birthday to the folk dance. So that's what we were doing. And everybody was there for his
2,500
birthday.
people.
2,500 people for his birthday. The rest of us had little family dinners. Spiro had, so it was, that was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's what we did. That was just part of it. There was no. You didn't know life any other way. In fact,
Right.
most people we knew, would come and go. This year their group didn't perform, or they did something, or whatever, or something happened. People would come in and out. They weren't estranged from the program. They come out. We were there every year. That's how that went.
Yep.
So.
Every year.
Like, did-
We. I will tell you, the folk dance. If there was something that got missed working on the folk dance festival, and when I say that, I have no regrets, and I think we had more opportunities than most of our peers did. But most families would probably go to Greece every other year. Some who were fortunate would go every year. We didn't have that. We were visiting grandma in Colorado, grandma in San Francisco, and the folk dance festival, and that was that. I don't have any regrets about it. But the program did go once there was a pilot program that we went as a tour group, and I was fortunate enough to go on that. And Nick and Spiro weren't old enough at that particular point in time.
The oldest.
Actually, what it really boiled down to is I was the only disposable one in the family. Mom and Dad, if we lose one, that's the one to lose. It's going to be fine. We'll send him off. It's not an issue. We're good. So, but they didn't. In case you don't know, Nick is the good son. Spiro is the favorite son, and I am the other son. So
the other son.
That's me.
And then there's Thanasi.
And then there's me. So when they were picking a kid to go, they thought, yeah, he's the guy. So, but no, I mean, as a root, and most kids were out vacationing over the summers, and I'm calculating oven space at hotel rooms to find out whether we can do a dinner or not. There, it's kind of a
Scouting.
slightly different
different.
different issues, different experiences. So. Actually, Lula and I ended up on a sister project. Out of the folk dance festival, there was created a youth conference, which was supposed to be very religiously focused and youth focused in terms of the church specifically. And it was sort of to answer some questions as the folk dance festival really grew and took off in popularity. There was complaints that maybe it was too secular or wasn't religious enough, and. Good, bad, or different, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that wasn't what the program was created to be. It was created to be linked to the church and to be part of it, but that wasn't what it was supposed to do. So, in response to the complaint, Dad created the concept of the youth conference, and it took off and did very well for a period of time. Is it still? I don't think it's still going. If it is, it's in a very different state than
It's in a very different state, but the youth conference, I guess you have to explain that the youth conference that he created was not just for encompassed the Greeks, but encompassed, he brought in other scholars or all religions. So whether you're Jewish.
The first one that was done here was actually done at UCSD. I actually attended that, and it was basically it was a weekend, a long weekend that had lecturers and intellectuals from academia, from the church, from whatnot, in all different areas. There was a rabbi, there was a Baptist minister, there was some Orthodox priests, there was, it was there, and they were basically the idea was to introduce both the religious topics, but then how the different faiths were dealing with it, and I think a lot of it was trying to help explain some of the things that they could do cooperatively together. Meaning just because there's a different faith doesn't mean that we don't have enough similarities to do something. And a lot of it was just to help the kids open up their eyes and open up their minds and do some stuff. And it was it college age? I think it was college age kids is where it started. Do you remember?
I believe I think it was college.
You have to ask Peter. But I think you're right. But it was and that program had its fits and starts for other reasons, and it ultimately changed. It also became similar to a format that the Folk Dance Festival has now, but with workshops.
I see.
And it had varying success, but it didn't track the success that the Folk Dance Festival did. And I think a lot of it was a lot of the success of the Folk Dance Festival, at least in the early years, was Peter drove it. You know, I mean, anything that works has somebody who drives it large enough to a point where it has a critical mass and can sustain itself. And I can tell you, it took a lot of resources, a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of attention. And you can only serve maybe one of those masters at a given time. So I'm not saying that the program didn't have value; it had a lot of value. It just didn't reach the sustainable success the Folk Dance Festival did.
Yes.
But anyway, so Lula and I ended up on that project. And it's kind of funny because, without naming names, that was comprised of all adults. It was in 1992 or 93. And the adults, there were some priests, there's some priests that are no longer with us, who have graduated this life, who, if you thought the kids didn't know anything about business and contracts, I remember Lula coming to me and saying, Thanasi, I need your help with this y'all conference. And I said, what's the problem? She says, well, there might be an issue with the contract. And the Metropolitan had called me and said, work with Lula, fix the problem. And I don't know, maybe I was 19 at the time or whatever. And when I look at the contract, the priests had figured that they were renting the hotel convention center space for 3 or 4 days. And the thought process that they went through was, well, we need to be able to move in and move out, so we're going to book it for the week before and the week after. So convention center space, downtown, Century City, basically 2.5 weeks, okay? And of course, they walked into the weekend, they were starting the weekend negative $150,000. There was no way to make the budgets work, right? You go, no, guys, we measure move in and move out in hours, not in days, okay? But they just didn't know. They didn't ask the question, and they didn't go through. What they didn't do was what was going on in the Folk Dance Festival was think through this. What's it costing you? Okay, where are the hidden costs? Ask the question. And so, so Lula and I got involved, and our job was to try and fix the contracts. And you're saying, yeah, it's hard to renegotiate these contracts after you've signed them and you're 2 weeks out. It's so. Oh yeah. God bless them. The hotel was they understood the issues, and they were very accommodating. It lost money, but it didn't lose anywhere near what it was supposed to lose. So let's put it that way. So, but it was a good issue, and we got to work on a lot of projects like that. So. It's okay to make mistakes, and that's how you learn. So make all the mistakes you want. Just don't make the same mistake twice. If you make the same mistake twice, then we're going to move you along. But and I can tell you, I don't ever remember him moving anybody along. Okay, and let me tell you, there were a lot of mistakes made. Okay, I mean, and let me tell you, everybody made mistakes. I mean, we had years when the festival lost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. We had years when it broke even. We had years when we had an idiot walk off the stage and fall 36 inches. We had, I mean, you name it, we've had it. Okay, and
yes,
in all of those cases, one of the things that I don't know how you feel about it, but one of the most impressive things about our father is he means it. You can make all the mistakes you want, because that's how you're going to learn. And he never once did he ever say to us, damn it, I can't believe you made that mistake. Like, how could you do that? He'd talk to you about it. He'd ask you how you would do it differently. He'd walk you through it. And when the problems happened, his response was, okay, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to address it? And there was never he just, it was, hey, it is what it is. Let's go take care of it. And what an amazing philosophy to grow up in, because there was no fear of it wasn't like, okay, I was going to get kicked out of the family. Well, I might have. Nick and Spiro, I might have, but generally speaking,
never. Dad is a visionary, and he has drive, lots and lots of drive, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's been
And
through a
he
lot.
has no opinions, and he's not.
No.
He really had no patience for adults that would just refuse to allow their kids to participate. If he had anything that he didn't like and his complaint would be, and he would tell you, it wasn't a secret. He's like, if you love your child and you care about your child and you want your child to succeed, why do you prevent them from growing? Why don't you let them get out in front? Why are you out there? What do you have to gain? Why is your ego in the way? You know?
So much so that he would actually go out to families that had kids that wanted to dance, but their parents were preventing them from dance, and talk to the parents, talk to the child, and coax them or get them to let their kids dance. And then for the parents to see their kids dance and show their pride and happiness and so forth, that there's an emotional point that the parent sees that, why was I so selfish to keep my child from this program, or just let him live, let him experience life.
His other pet peeve, I think, was small-minded people. He just didn't like that, and because I think his belief is you can accomplish anything you think you can accomplish. If you're going to limit yourself in the beginning, forget it. You're going to limit your accomplishments. But we would have priests in the diocese that would say, "Oh, this program is too much work. It's this, that, and the other." He'd say, this is doing your job for you. It's bringing these kids to church. It's bringing these kids into the parish. It's, what are you doing? And it was interesting. There were two types of priests. There were those that got it and those that didn't get it. Those that got it would have these amazing youth programs, flourishing, hundreds of kids. Every night there'd be something. I mean, St. Spirit was a perfect example. Father John Kefi was our parish priest here for 12, 14 years. I don't know.
Long time.
We had full Goya, full Y'all, full dance programs, he had 6 altar boy teams. It would take you 6 weeks to become an altar boy, to rotate back through, because he just had so many of them.
Several hundred kids, a couple hundred or more.
And he would,
children,
the most
kids
amazing
from all
guy,
ages.
He would every night of the week, somebody was practicing dance, somebody was in Goya, somebody was doing something. And when he would leave church to go home, he would come back by through. He'd talk to the kids. He'd hug them. Glad to see you here. How's your mom doing? Just absolutely. And it didn't matter if anybody wanted to do anything with you. He was great. Go do it. Had an amazing parish. He leaves. The successors did not have his same vision. Killed the program. Yep. We are struggling to this day, 20 years later plus, to get one group to go. My kids couldn't participate this year. There's no group that went. They had to go with the choral competition because I was the only group that was sent.
It was just that one advanced intermediate, and the choral.
Yep, that's it. And that's from the parish that started it. From the parish that used to have 10, 12 teams. Used to have 300-400 kids. It's an issue. You got parishes like my father-in-law's parish, Sacramento. God, they would have. Not only would they have a ton of teams, they had these groups that would have 50, 60 kids in them. It was just insane. You should have seen them on the dance floor. It was impressive. It was impressive to see these kids. And, he was not one of those guys that was like, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to, these priests would go, if you want to be in dance, you got to be in Sunday school, you got to do this, you got to do that. And the priests that were successful, by and large, there are exceptions, but the priests that were successful were the ones that said, come. What capacity you want to be here? Great. By the way, now that you're here, I really encourage you, go to Sunday school. Go do this, go do that. But there were priests that got it, and there were priests that didn't. And that's probably true to this day.
It's still true.
Yeah.
A really good parish to check out that's well established and has many groups and is very involved in the program, as well as the dancers in the other programs of the community of the church. Is Long Beach is one. There's many actually like that.
Long Beach, Sacramento still.
There's Pasadena.
Yeah. There's some,
Saint Sophia, LA.
Yeah.
There's a number of parishes that are out there, but it's been
Seattle.
It's been a few years. Seattle. Boy, when we were growing up, Seattle was
a powerhouse.
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
They were huge.
So is Pasadena, Anaheim. Yeah.
It's changed a little. We haven't been around as much lately, but yeah, there's definitely some out there.
Cardiff is not. It's never by not a powerhouse by by any
They
means,
have a program,
but they have a
It's
program.
not,
They've been working it.
Right. They haven't been around from the beginning. However, now that once the church, they've, they have a program. They do have a program. It's a good program.
They've been having some transition issues with their priesthood.
Correct.
Got a new priest, and
The same issues that St. Spiritan's having.
Yeah.
You get, one your successor, or, and then there's a fluctuation as kids, when they, from elementary school, then high school, then college, a lot of them will leave, and so then the program kind of shrinks down, and there's, and then the kids, those that may come back to the community, and then they become your directors of the future generations, or those kids go into the high school teach the younger groups. It's kind of how it self-perpetuates itself.
mhm.
or they get pregnant out of wedlock and they drop out of high school and they become worthless people. I don't know. These things happen. I don't know. It's just a big issue.
But they're kicked out.
Sometimes get kicked out of the house
yes.
and things like that. It's just a very bad thing. It's horrible.
Has it tails?
Yeah, it's tough on there. Great. You had those kids whose parents brought them and said, "You're going to go." Okay, there were certainly those. They did not last long. I mean, the parent is only going to fight that kid so long before
Right.
they eventually do that. Most of the people who got there that way, the vast majority of them, they just found a home. I mean, it was a fun place to be. I mean, you had fun.
A lot of diversity.
Yeah, and so were there people who they just didn't make it? Yeah, but most of them, they either moved or they got involved in something. They got involved in baseball or whatever, and it conflicted or something of that nature. It wasn't. And most of us, I mean, we played baseball and soccer and still dance,
Mm-hmm.
but some kids, they were on a traveling team or they were this, they were that, or whatever the case is, and whatever they eventually they might have, but vast majority, and it was one of those things where you didn't, it wasn't so, it wasn't like competitive baseball or soccer or hockey. I mean, if you were on a baseball team and you couldn't make practice on Wednesday, but you made it on Friday, you were okay. Nobody shunned you. We didn't, it was like, yeah, okay, I know you're playing baseball. Okay, great. And you could still learn the dances, and you could still do it. It wasn't to the point where like, oh no, you got to get your 175 pitches in, or your arm's gonna,
Right.
it was accommodating. I'd say,
You didn't feel the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, and most people, they wanted to be there. I mean, the neat thing about the competition, which has also been criticized over the years, is you were happy for your friends in other groups when they did well, but you wanted to show up and do well, and so you went to practice and you practiced and you stayed 10 minutes extra and 15 minutes extra, and you worked a little harder. You did it one more time, and you did those things because you wanted to.
It's a healthy kind of competition, not,
Yeah, I mean, it was.
not the soccer.
Certainly, when we were growing up, which was interesting, is that I hadn't been there for a couple of years until this year. But when we were growing up, it was standing room only all the time, because you for certain, for your division or your category, you wanted to see everybody in it. A, they were all your friends, and B, you were curious what they were doing and what they'd come up with and what they did differently from last year, this year, and it was very, very collegial in that regard. It seemed a little less like that this year. It seemed more like, quick, hurry up, get dressed, quick, perform. Okay, good, our group's done. Thank you. But and that may not be a fair statement, but it was definitely different from when there was definitely a different feel, and that may or may not come back. I mean, part of it just depends on how that happens. But
Did you think that, Nick? Did you ever think?
This year, I've been a couple years this year, and a few years ago I went, and
he's more socially.
I doubt that one equally. When a group, being a spectator and watching, from my own experience in dancing, we used to when we went up and danced, we'd perform our suite, and then we'd come around and we'd sit in the section designated for the dancers, and then we'd watch the next groups in our category to see how they perform and kind of critique them, as well, and as well as to cheer them on, because you see these people not only once a year at the event, but throughout the year you may see them, as communities have their own food festivals, their own groups will perform, and then they also invite other groups from other parishes, or hey, we know so and so, you guys want to come up and dance, or In the last couple of years that I've been, it was more of along the same lines what Thanasi had mentioned, is that when a group would go up there, you kind of hurry to get dressed and get up to this, stage left or stage right to get ready to perform, and then you perform and do your suite, and then you get off and you go take your pictures, you go see the judges, the costume judges, so they can see the costume and critique it and judge it and so forth, and then after that they were gone, and then they didn't stay. Very few stayed to watch, and so it's kind of lost a little bit of the family aspect. I mean, there was a lot of people there, but usually, as Thanasi mentioned, is that in previous years and earlier years that everybody would go. There would be teams that wouldn't go on for several hours, be dressed, sitting in the bleachers or in the chairs, watching and cheering on their. So there was. It's less of that this year.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that is, but that's
it's some of that could be that dancers in the older groups are directing younger groups, and so they got to be at two places at once, or they've got to hurry up to get one place. But even that was back in the earlier years. It was the same thing, but they made their compromises. They had someone, they have their help. This year was a little bit. It was not like traditional or more family oriented. This year is very kind of sparse, if you will, at the. In the competition room. Not at all.
I don't think it necessarily.
Time changes, and there's you get different feel. The crowd's different. Different generations that attend, so.
Some of it may have been when we were growing up. Man, there's an amazing pride issue. If you were from Greece, if you're first generation, you were here watching this stuff. I mean, I can't tell you. People would be grown men crying in the audience watching dances from their village, watching things that they did as kids, growing up, which just is an amazing issue. And a lot of that generation is dying. I mean, they were in their 50s, 60s, 70s back 20, 30 years ago, and some of them are now gone. And then for those of us who grew up in the program, and there's not a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. Different presentations, sure, okay, but we've kind of seen it, and so it may also be what we may be seeing is sort of a shift of people saying, yeah, I've seen that. Oh, they're doing a politics. Oh, they're doing a Cretan set. Oh, they're doing it. Okay, that's great. I understand it. Thank you very much. And just kind of, I don't know. Okay, I'll catch the film. I'll buy the tape. Whatever the case. What I hope they haven't lost is sort of the back and forth. I mean, Nick is correct. We would get invited. We'd go to Long Beach. We'd go to all these different parishes, and you'd dance at their food festivals, and you'd hang out with them, and it was great. And and the nice part about the committees, management teams and the committees, were the kids. We try to get kids from all over the place. I think they're still doing that. And you'd have kids that would fly in once a month for meetings from all over the place because they, you had a kid from Phoenix and a kid from Seattle and a kid from whatever, and that was part of the budget. You knew that you had to budget that in.
It's changed.
Has it changed?
I don't do that. Well, the difference is now is that they have, from the time from 91 until 2007, 8, was that the management team was comprised of a wide range of an age span. So you had youngest 13 to 25 or somewhere around there. Now it's, since have stepped down and passed it on to the next generation, they tried to continue 1 or 2 years, and then they scrapped it, and now you have to be 20. Basically, you're out of college, so it's college graduates only that are running it. Then now you see younger kids, assisting, but they have no really leadership role. But the whole basis of Dad's creation of the program is it's getting the youth, the young, the next generation, and getting them into a leadership role and educating them, teaching them, so that they'll have the knowledge to go on in life, not only in this program but in their own lives, and then be able to pass that knowledge on to their kids or to their friends or whoever. So they've really gotten away from that. It's kind of like almost going back almost to somewhat like a parish, so to speak. So it's not, when he was in the parish you didn't see the kids in there. It was mostly adults, and so they've kind of gone back. It's the same. It's typically the same people that are running it. Again, they'll have assistants or helpers, volunteers there from many different communities, but it's mostly a small group that are running it continually in the leadership roles. So,
Why did you step down or transfer?
would you like to answer that?
You might want to ask Peter that question. I
That's
think
Peter.
there's a number of reasons, and probably a good portion of that's a political issue. But you had a Metropolitan change. We'd had one before, many years before, and the new Metropolitan coming in, had heard good things about the program, bad things about the program, good things about the family, bad things about the family, good things about Dad, bad things about Dad. What can I tell you, man?
Yeah.
So I think his management style was, at least what I think I saw him do across the board when he came in, is he sort of kind of cleared the decks of everybody and put new people into all the programs.
Okay.
I don't think this was one of those programs. It was not. I don't mean anything negative to the current Metropolitan in any way, shape, or form. I quite frankly, I might have done the same thing. I don't know. And I think Dad was, he was ready to get out. I think the frustration that Dad had was that he would have liked to have continued the leadership program and sort of passed. And there were definitely people that could have sort of continued to nurture those same things that were important. But those things were not necessarily important. I mean, this program it was a burden. Okay, I don't mean that. It's a burden. It was a huge time commitment. And if I'm the new guy coming in, it's like I got a tough enough job as it is, and I got to sit there and deal with this problem. Hell, So he had asked Dad just to resign and allow him to appoint people in. And you have to ask Dad for his story, but I think Dad was saying, that's fine. I'm not here to challenge you on that. We've been doing this for 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out, So, so I think that was it. But the Metropolitans, when they come in here, these guys, they're seated for life. Okay, so whenever they get their appointment to the time that they die, or I guess they're going to resign, they're here. They come into these areas. They know nothing about the parishes of people that are there. This program, I will tell you, was a mystery across the country, across the world. We had groups from all over the place. We used to have groups from Greece, from Alaska, from Australia, South America. I mean, we had even so the program was known, and people had a bias. It's too religious. It's not religious enough. It's too competitive. It's not competitive enough. It's there's so much work. There's whatever. So who knows what stories were told and what he heard and what he did. And on top of it all, you're going to come in after a guy's been in this town, in this area for 20 some odd years and been the Metropolitan. You got to take over. That's a tough transition. So, so I think it was just timing. Yeah, timing, and it was time, and unfortunately, the prior Metropolitan, I don't think was. He got sick before he could really make the transition happen, and so a lot of it went on hold because Dad was not going to do anything without his permission or consent or whatever the case
Blessing.
was, and so yeah, but
That makes sense.
presidents clear out their cabinet and they start
Sure.
over.
Yeah.
It's that simple,
Yeah, especially
So.
someone that has a group this size or that is that popular. You either have to embrace it or
Well, and
can't be half-hearted.
financially, the program was really guaranteed by the family. I mean, if the program failed, the family was on the hook for most of it on a given year. When the new guy took over, I mean, he brought it directly under the Metropolis, and so the Metropolis is on the hook. And if it's your nickel in your watch, you're gonna wanna make sure that nothing goes wrong, I guess. So, yeah.
True.
I've seen it.
I haven't heard them bring in any groups since we passed on the program, but no.
It also may be a timing thing.
It's possible.
After Metropolitan Anthony was in this diocese for 20 some odd years, he had no problem reaching out to South America, reaching out to Cyprus, reaching out to Greece, reaching out to different issues. He had no problem bringing them over. He had no problem heck, I remember him bringing priests from Greece and bringing him out into the diocese out here. I mean, he was very and he was a unique guy. I'm not suggesting that the current guy, there's anything wrong with him, but Anthony had no ego in terms of that type of an ego. He didn't. He would share. He was open. I mean, if you showed up at his house unannounced, he'd cook you dinner. He was just. He'd come to your house. He'd cook you dinner. He was just a very unique guy. Most people just and he was on the road all the time. He was always in somebody's house. He was always, and you sit there and go, that's just. It takes a unique person to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's not everybody.
It's like a one of a kind.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not taking anything away from the current Metropolitan. I'm sure he's one of a kind, and however he does. I don't know him the same way, so I couldn't tell you. But and it was unlikely you're gonna find a successor Metropolitan that has the same characteristics and qualities as the guy before. It's just not,
And the combination of him and your dad
was a very powerful combination.
Right.
Those two had a very amazing. They both understood. Once Anthony understood what Dad was doing and how he did it, it didn't take him long to trust him implicitly, and then it was, and they both were like, honestly, God, I tell people I grew up with two fathers. It was the two of them were. The two of them were. I could have talked to either one of them, got the same advice. Pretty much is how that happened. And kind of different accent, mind you, but it was the same advice. Okay, so it was kind of It was very interesting.
Yes.
It was. They were just very. And they worked on the ranch board together, and they started that project. I mean, all these things that were the youth conference, the focus, all these things that these legacy projects that the poor guy that now came has had to inherit, were all the monasteries. All these things were things that Anthony started, that Dad encouraged. I mean, they'd just say, hey, we're going to go out and take this new parish is looking at a building project. He'd tell Dad, get on, come up, let's go take a look at this stuff. I mean, they just worked very symbiotically together, and they really understood each other, and they understood that they both had the best interest of the church and the metropolis at heart, and how to promote that. And they both thought long term. Dad probably a little longer than Anthony, but they were both long term.
Yes, very much so.
So, and they both, and I think the other side is, they both love the kids. Anthony would, of all the Metropolitans I ever got close to, got to know, he would be the guy. If you take the average Metropolitan, you say, okay, we can go through the crowd, or I can take you back through the kitchen, okay, and get you out of here. Every one of them is going to say, I'll take me through the kitchen and get me the hell out of here, okay? Anthony would say, no, I'll see you at the room. And he would walk through, and he would touch as many people as he could, shake hands, talk to people. He would get stuck there. I'd have to go fish him out of the crowd. Please, you're late. We got to go do this. He wanted to be around the people.
He was a people person.
And he loved the youth. You would see him. He would sit in that front. He would sit there damn near all day at the judge's table. Didn't care. He would sit there. He'd watch all the dances. He didn't care. He may have been bored to tears. He wouldn't know it. He would cheer. He would clap. He would go around. He'd hug and kiss them. He loved it. He loved it. And I think that him and Dad, in that regard, that combination was just a very powerful combination. And
Unique.
Very unique. Doubt that that's going to be replicated.
Makes sense, but
and that's
still.
what I think changed. That was one of the things I think I was talking about. Is yes, you did have people that would come and go, and we got to feed the kids, we do it, but you didn't have it. It was full, and it was always full. And I think what I saw, what struck me was you really sort of had, hey, Seattle's dancing, okay, Seattle's people are there, okay, Seattle's not dancing, okay, all right, Fresno's dancing, okay.
I did.
Least favorite dance.
Whichever one I had done like 900 times by Friday at like midnight. Well, you can say, hey, what did you like doing? Well, I related really well to that group or that dance or that issue, or I enjoyed the movement or whatnot. But there was, I don't know if there's something you didn't like doing. It wasn't like, oh, I gotta do that dance. Oh, God. I mean, all these dances are historical. There was a story behind it. There's a reason for why people did it. You kind of, I mean, you can have, you can definitely have a favorite or one that you like more than another, but I don't know that you.
It's not like the foxtrot. Where
Yeah. I don't think there was one that I just didn't like. We had problems with some of the choreography. These, Yahoo teachers would go, let's do this. What? But that's a different issue altogether. Didn't like some of the costumes. All right, I want you to wear a dance band. What? not wearing dance pants. Or they take a break. I'm not doing that. Oh yeah, we had one. She was dance pants. So, no, I think I would. I'm looking forward to watching the finished product and seeing diversity. Because what's interesting is I think every single person, my guess, that's ever been touched by the program, or ever been part of the program for any purpose, they all have certain similarities. I think you're going to say, oh yeah, that's a common, right? But I think every single person is going to have a takeaway that's very unique to them.
Yes.
That is not duplicated anywhere else. And those stories I think are fun because you listen to them and you go, oh yeah, I kind of had some of that, or man, I missed that. Where the heck was that? That must have been on the 12th floor. Okay, so, but kind of what it was, and it's, it was different. I have most of my memories tend to be on the administrative side. I mean, I remember dancing and growing up and doing that stuff, but the things that resonated with me were on the administrative sides. There was the the almost getting punched out. There was the all sorts of things that little.
Oh, I want to hear that.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, now you want to hear that story. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no. But I mean, you had these, you had weird things that happened. My guess is that as other people, as you talk to people, you're going to hear some very different issues. And my guess is you're going to talk to some people that only can know the dances and can tell you, oh, this is from this is a Bolos and this is this and this is that, and I can tell you the differences between it, and that's just what they love. And they can talk about costumes for hours, and they can talk about whatever.
Very true.
So I'm curious what I would love to see is the diversity, because I think people look at the program myopically, and I think that is the wrong way to look at it. I think people sort of say, oh yeah, this is what FDF means, and this is sort of their thing. Oh, it's dancing, it's whatever, and it's none of that stuff, and it's all of that stuff.
Right.
And so if you ask me what do I want to see, I would love for the diversity of the program and the different ways that it touched people and touches people today. I'd love to see that come out in the story. That's what I'd love to see. Honestly, I think the program is blessed. There have been so many truly talented people in so many different areas coming together in one place and finding some commonality in here. In and of itself, that is just so cool.
Yeah.
You go anywhere else in the world, and you're going to see, you may see great, people who are well developed, but they tend to be in a very narrow bandwidth and a very sort of kind of, topic or area, whatever. But there are people, there are business owners, there are cab drivers, there's people in government, there's people in the hotel industry, and just across the board, and the number of parishes and the different parishes and the different priests and the different ways yet people all kind of find a home here, find a place that's them, And when you look at the number of people that have gotten married and who've met each other and dated and who traveled, I mean, it was, you didn't have, kids didn't just get up and go to LA for the weekend with their friend. That was just not culturally acceptable. Mm-hmm. But it became okay in the program. Oh, you're going to John's house. Okay, I know his mom. I've met her. Mm-hmm. We've talked. Okay. Oh, it's Father so-and-so's parish. Okay, Father, so how is the so-and-so? Okay, great. I'm going to send them. So, I'm really curious about how that comes out. Sure. And I might be more curious in what you throw away versus what you keep. But we'll talk about that. It's also very interesting.
That would be interesting, yes.
But are you serious? You want to hear the story about getting punched out? Yeah. You would. So, in 1991, the hotel had the fire department was just insane in LA about any kind of open flames, and we had battle after battle with the hotel. And the Bonaventure Hotel, the big challenge we had was the Bonaventure Hotel was a business hotel. Okay, they did not have youth groups there. Okay, and quite frankly, it was new for them. It was something that was definitely other and they were not comfortable because the other problem we had was our kids were doing their job, but they were sitting across the table from adults who were going, I don't understand why this 13-year-old is talking to me. I don't understand that, okay? And they were not happy with, because I remember they kept saying, yeah, but who's in charge? But who's in charge? Yeah, this person, no, who's in charge? and I remember Dad would come in and say, Peter, we need to ask you, is this okay? And he'd say, well, I don't know. Well, he's the chair of the committee. What did he say? He said, well, yeah, but Peter, we need to sign a contract. Well, no, but did you talk to him about those? I mean, and Dad was in charge of the committee. It blew their mind. Okay, it blew their mind, and to the point where they were just so concerned that this thing was going to just be a problem, and that the stories they could tell you of what they did was just astronomical. But at any point in time, the hotel just in general in that city fire was a big issue, and if you had an open flame, so we had a battle over church candles, lighting them on Sunday morning, and sandboxes and this and anything.
Yep.
And in many of the dances, you would have a lit candle or something or other. And so we had been telling people, please, we've had enough issues with this hotel, no open flames. If you've got to have a candle in your presentation, it's either got to be electric or you just don't light it, And like all Greeks who follow instructions to the T and they do not cause any issues or any problems, everybody was gonna, because we were telling people no, everybody had an open flame. Okay, that was we had like people show up with their flame doors. Please put the thing back in your pocket. And I remember as the Modesto group was dancing, and they had the lady in the front had this little open flame, and we had already had 2 visits from the fire marshal who was out there giving us nonsense. And we later found out, by the way, that the hotel was intentionally calling them and having them come out just to kind of give us a problem, which was very interesting the way Dad handled that. But so the hotel is on my butt. I'm just trying to keep the event up. They kept threatening to shut the event down, and of course what do I know? I'm 18. I'm running around like an idiot. And so this girl's lit these 3 candles, and she's dancing with them on the stage. And I'm like, please, I was talking to the director, she's got to blow that out. The fire marshal was standing in the ballroom saying, I'm going to shut you guys down. And so I finally, during the performance, was I need the candle. You've got to bring it over here. And so the director got the candle, and everybody was very upset about it. And, in hindsight, I probably would have told the fire marshal, you tell these people that, they got to go. But at 18, what did I know, right? Yeah. So one of the parents was just livid. And so he was causing a scene, and we already had caused a scene. I said, look, let's take this outside. And they didn't want to take it outside. And we walked outside. And that particular year, my best friend, Clemente Casillas, was in charge of security that year. Very Greek name, very Greek boy. Let me tell you, and he tells us we do our gyros wrong. He said they're supposed to be taco shaped with lettuce in them, but I don't know. But anyway, so we're standing outside, and Clemente was Golden Gloves champion 2 years in a row. He boxed for the Olympic team. He was an alternate almost with the Olympics. He sparred with Mike Sphinx, and he was special, and he was not allowed to hit anybody. Okay, that was it was just like pulling a gun on him. Okay. And Clemente is standing there, and Clemente is not happy with this guy being amped at me, and I was a lot shorter than Clemente, and this guy was a pretty big, tall guy, and his priest was there, Father Margolas was there. And I said to the guy, and I'm trying to explain to him, hey, look, it's not me, it's the fire marshal, this is going on. And he says, and what ultimately ended up happening is we had to kick him out of the auditorium. He wouldn't stop causing a problem. And so Father John is there, and Father John is a very passionate person, and he was being passionate with me because of this damn issue, and nobody was glad to hear about this. And finally, the guy just gets mad. He takes a swing at me. And God bless Clemente, who catches his fist as it's coming at me. And this is happening so fast. I don't know what's going on. And Father Margolas, who has to be 6'4", 6'5", he panics. He realizes, oh God, this has gotten out of control. And he used to play football. He's a big guy, and I probably weighed at the time, as you can tell, I was probably maybe 150 pounds. And he literally, the priest, just grabs me and picks me up, and he's running around the thing, and I'm off my feet screaming, "Don't hit him, Clemente! Don't hit him back!" And I'm running, and he's pulling me. Let me down! I got I remember having this. In my mind, I'm like, "Oh, great! We're gonna have this, World War III happening," and I could just imagine this. Here got this priest in his black shirt and collar. He's got this guy on the committee underneath his arm. He's running around the thing, and there's this very tall Mexican man who's clearly Greek, who has somehow managed to arrest a hand in mid-swing, and we've got this scene had to have just been, finally everything gets calmed down, and I remember saying to Clemente, "How did you resolve it?" I asked him if he wanted to try that again, and he said no. I said, well, that would make sense. The first one didn't work very well. I guess that ended that, and of course, everything got calmed down. It was fine, and God bless Dad. I was just angry at the fire marshal. They what happened. Sure. And Dad says, "Let's just go take care of this." And we walk up to the hotel manager's office. Dad says, "I want to talk to you and the fire marshal." And the hotel general manager says, "Yeah, well, you've got this problem." And so Dad looked at him and said, "Oh, what's the problem?" And the fire marshal had some stupid answer. I don't know what it was. And the hotel jumped in and cut him off and was telling him, "Oh, you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this," or whatever. And I'm sitting there fuming, about ready to kill somebody, and Dad started doing one of these. Just calm down. And pretty much, he's telling me, ratchet down, and Dad said, and Dad looks at the fire marshal and he says, "You know what I think? I think you're prejudiced. I think you're prejudiced against Greek people. I think you're a bigot." And the pharmacist goes, no, this is code. No, I don't think it's code. Do you do this for the black groups that come in here and the Jewish groups that come in here and the Mexican groups that come in? No. I mean, no, it's the same rule for, I mean, the guy just was like, no, that's fine. We're done. You guys go ahead. There's no issue. And the fire marshal left and the hotel was like, where'd you go? And Dad says, okay, well, if we're finished here, and he says, come on, let's go get something to eat. And that was that. And it was, but yeah, I mean, he was just very supportive. And you had to bail yourself out. I mean, if you got yourself into trouble, you had to go work through it. He'd sit there with you, he'd help you, he'd talk you through it, and help you talk through it. But but then when it got to this kind of issue, it was kind of like, you guys are. He got what the hotel was doing. I mean, just explaining, the hotel decided they didn't want. The kids would run up and down the escalators and had all those floors up and down, and so they felt concerned. The kids weren't doing anything. There was no damage. They cut the belt on the escalator. They literally took a saw and cut the black belt on the escalator so it couldn't be used. Of course, afterwards, they at the end of the weekend, they said, well, there's some damage. It was $15,000 or whatever. And I looked at them and I said, you think our kids did that? I said, yeah. My kid pulled out, one of the kids from our program, 10, 12-year-old, pulled out a saw, and cut the belt. Okay, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, it was one of those clean cuts, and they played that game. Had the same problem at Disneyland. Disneyland was a mess. Disneyland, this group congregates. This group is they want to hang out together. They haven't seen each other in a year. They're going to stay up all night long, dance, drink, smoke, and they're going to talk, and they're going to, and let me tell you, CPS, God forbid they ever show up at one of these things, because you'd have like 4-year-olds, sleep on the lobby because mom and dad are still talking to their friends. Oh, Johnny's fine. He just throw a jacket over him. He's good.
So true.
Susie's just no. The floor is clean. The lady just came through and vacuumed. She's fine down there. And they're just talking and doing their thing and whatever. And this just bothers hotels. Okay, it bothers security. It bothers hotels. And, you have 1,000 people jammed into a lobby that says occupancy 94 or something like that. Nobody likes that. Security at Disneyland got so concerned, they decided to let off stink bombs through the air ducts, through the air conditioning system, because they were trying to disperse the crowd. Because Disneyland they don't ever want to do anything. They're never going to come through and go, hey, move it out of here. But they want to
subtle.
They want it very subtle. And their thing was that have all these guys in tan trench coats with a little ear thing. They go, please matriculate through the hallway, sir. Please matriculate through the hallway. Really? Matriculate through the hallway? Who wrote that? I don't understand. So they would do this stuff, right? And it was crazy. And so they let off stink bombs. And I remember because you had all these security guards who were lined up around the thing. And I don't know where they called these guys. But like, okay, we need everybody here tonight. Everybody's got to get here. Like all of a sudden, 30 security guards are all standing in their trench coats. They're just standing there looking. And people are dancing and singing and drinking and whatever. And all of a sudden, the stink bomb comes out. And literally, the reaction from the people was like, please. It's gonna be another year. I gotta finish my conversation. I got a little bit of a drink left, and my cigarette's not out. We're gonna finish. We're gonna finish our conversation. They kept going. Didn't give a damn.
Bring on the tear gas.
They could care less. I don't think the tear gas would have mattered. It was that funny.
Yeah,
it was that funny. So yeah, But
I can't believe Disneyland's crazy.
Yeah, they were. We didn't go back there. They were
very strict.
They are great at handling tens of thousands of people who are not related and who are not there to visit with the other tens of thousands of people who are there.
So true. Very true.
No congregating.
To give you an idea of Disneyland's thought process, you'll love this one. It has nothing to do with the folk dance festival, other than that we were there. I remember I was looking for some gum. And I went to the store at the hotel there at the design hotel. I said, I'm looking for, and there was a wall of candy. I mean, it was a wall. I mean, there were candies I had never heard of. I don't know, maybe they're from Mexico, and they were all. And I'm looking, I'm standing, geez, I cannot find a single pack of gum on this wall. So I turned to the lady behind the counter, and the lady looked like she was older. I would say she was probably in her late 60s. She looked like one of those ladies working in the hospital gift shop, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, ma'am, I said, where's the gum? She said, oh, we don't have any. And I looked at her like, and she says, Walt wouldn't have wanted it that way. And no, she actually, I swear, hand to God, she said that. And I remember stopping for a second thinking, well, you're old enough. You probably knew what Walt wanted, so that was okay. So I was okay with that. Right? He was 20 behind there. I was like, no, you're bullshitting me. Get out of there. Okay. But she was in her 60s. I'm like, okay, she probably met him one time. Whatever. Got a little autograph. Whatever it is. So I said, okay, fine. I mean, and you're like, okay, well, I guess, yeah, they probably don't want me sticking stuff in the, all right. So I'm turning back around, and as I'm scanning the candy can again, at the very end of it, there's a whole section on condoms. There's every condom in the world there.
No.
I turned back around, I said, ma'am, I said, you have a section on condoms? She says, yes, we do. I said, let me guess, Walt would have wanted it that way. And then I laughed again. Thank you. No gum, please. Condoms, yes. You have all. And filtered cigarettes, we need those too. But for the love of God, no gum. We don't want any. No gum. Please, we don't want that. So.
Let's see. I'd like to see. Well, I can't wait to see the finished product. But I'd also like to get a copy of, as I sit here, the start to finish of everybody you interview from A to Z and then some, without the unedited version. So I can put that in my collection and pull it out so I can see. And one of the things that I enjoy about in interviewing or seeing interviews is that when you interview, as we interview here, you're the editors, then you go back and edit the tape and modify or whatever and clean it up and so forth. So, profanity gets edited and, it gets substituted with whatever.
That's him. He's the cameraman and the editor and the copy guy and the
So, but it's also seeing the facial expressions, the body language, the bloopers, if you will, or also the canny, the uncanny, what's the talk between all parties, and even though the presenters there, both of you are presenting questions, you're not quite in the picture, but to see, the interviewee responding to the questions, it's seeing the whole aspect of it, the raw footage of it.
With all these people, so it's kind of, you're curious, kind of like, what did you think of that?
It's as we talked about a lot of these, the original, the judges or the costume judges, the directors, the mentors, I'd like to ask questions about their going back to the roots, going back to where they started from, and then how they got to this program, or where they see it going, so you can kind of see a progression, because a lot of these, you have lawyers, doctors, businessmen, and so forth, and to see their story, to see, to find out what drove them to go down these paths. Why did you want to become a cameraman? Why did he want to become a lawyer? Why did why did it's what is it that brought them to the specific areas, and so it's to see that, as well as the program as a whole, but it's for me it's going back through it to see where the visions of these individuals, as well as my father. He had the greatest vision of all, and the drive to, as he's fearless, he has drive, he has passion, love for the program, and and to see that is in an unedited version, and to see in the finished product, but also that unedited version, the raw footage. It's something, because when these individuals eventually move on and pass away, and so that it's something to share, to remember those individuals, to say, and kind of see the uncanny, you catch people, as they're talking, you're going to catch their, maybe they'll say something, or they'll make some kind of funny noise, or they'll be whispering, or be thinking, like, a light bulb pops on, it's to catch that moment, because what you're doing is you're capturing the memory, so that someone else can to share it with someone else, and so, Dad's vision, his words, our stories, will hopefully be instilled and will be seen by, my brother's kids, Spiro's kid. He won't be able to really recognize it, but eventually, when he grows up, he'll be able to see this information, and then in the future generations, and relatives and friends, it's something that is very important. It's a cultural experience, so.
Cool. Like you used to,
It's it's also the one of the things that one of the biggest things that I enjoy is sitting down or talking with these judges or these people that have started the program or helped the program in its infancy stages grow. Like Don Hyatt, who's no longer with us, is Ellie Hyatt, who's still with us, and Dina Stamos, and John Lulius. There's
we've lost some judges. Nick
Mauriciotis.
And,
But to see these judges capture their images, and the stories they have are just fantastic. Their life stories are amazing. What they've been through, what they've.
And the other piece of it I think is interesting is a lot of the initial musicians that came into the program were non-Greek, playing Greek instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What's interesting about that is you almost if I ever could sit down and talk to them, be like, what possessed you? An Irish person from wherever, what possessed you to, play the Greek gaida or the lita or the whatever? And because it's interesting, there is a culture of, these sort of this folk culture,
Mm-hmm.
and these groups these people are very interesting, and the personalities are very interesting.
Well, there are clinics or like weekend retreats that these musicians or folklore people who are in the folklore environment, that will attend these retreats. That arrange. It's almost like a folk dance festival, but it's really a clinic or retreat for the musicians to learn and teach one another. And so you have non-Greeks learning Greek instruments, and vice versa. And it's not just Greek instruments; it's a variety of instruments. Whether it's Greek, or maybe it's Jewish, or maybe it's Russian, or maybe it's whatever. They learn all these instruments, and then these people go out and they play for organizations, events like the FDF, or they go to the church events and they'll play, or they'll just go and they'll show up and they'll start playing.
that was the genesis of a lot of the kids learning how to play, is because they're like, oh, I can do that. And they learned to do it, but it was interesting.
Sorry, well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our first meeting, you mentioned a group of
Olympians.
the Olympians. Okay.
The Olympians were, they still are. They were a group of really young teenagers who figured out how to make money, basically make some weekend or pocket money playing gigs for, usually it was weddings and baptisms and that kind of stuff. And nice kids. They're out of Long Beach. Kids, they're all adults. They got kids themselves who are grown now, but they
Yes.
those guys were wonderful. They would they were a big draw. Everybody liked them. They played at the Sunday banquet usually, and they were great partners for years.
Mm-hmm.
They did that. I mean, obviously we covered their costs and stuff like that, but I mean, it was great. And quite frankly, I think that also probably helped their career a little bit. I mean, because if you didn't know about them, you certainly knew about them after that.
Yeah.
And then if you were getting married, that was the band to have. That was for a long period of time there. That was it. So it was. And those guys came up as dancers. They were the talent for the at least the final Glendy, and they were and they knew everybody. They knew everybody. And of course they're musicians, so all the girls knew them, and I hated them for that. Let's just face it, they were just bad people. So.